Antonio Guterres made a statement that this is a time for make or break. What does that mean for you and your organisation from a climate action delivery perspective over the next 12 months?
Well, for us it is very propitious to see that the world is switching. The world is going away from this conviction that we can continue to just run the natural resources without any consideration for the long term. Our motto in our company is doing today what the patient needs tomorrow. That in itself implies sustainability. You cannot do something for the patient tomorrow. You cannot bring the innovation that the patient will need if you do not have a company, if you are not a sustainable position. So we've always integrated long-term thinking in our approach, and I think we started measuring our carbon output 30 years ago. We've been managing the output quite actively. We are not going to make big pronouncements at this COP. We're not going to say we will be carbon neutral or carbon zero. We are just going to do it, and we're doing it step by step. We already have reduced our CO2 emission by more than 80% over the last 10 years, and this is something we're going to bring to zero, but not a net zero, not compensation for buying the right to pollute. What we really want to do is to not pollute, and I think that's applicable to CO2, to methane, and to all the activities that we have in our company.
And we've known about climate change since the 1960s or before that. After 6 decades, what do you think is the big bottleneck or the elephant in the room that's going to slow down the acceleration that we need to transition?
So one of the reasons why we are in the situation in which we are is because we have been given as a rule to manage our company a very simple one. The business of business is business. Pre-Nobel 1978, sorry, Nobel Prize winner 1978, Milton Friedman, the activity of a company is to generate positive results, and the rest is left to society to sort out. We restitute the money to society through taxes, through salaries, and then society will deal with the externalities. Well, it's just absurd. We would be much better off to run our business in a way which will include the long term, and in particular in the case of climate, which includes the risk of climate, because that's a very important impediment to the development of our companies. And if we include in our actions of today a sort of insurance premium, which will allow us in the long term to make sure that we have less side effect of the value creation process, I think that's a much wiser way of dealing with natural resources.
And are you doing any work in the resilience, adaptation, or just transition space that you could maybe illustrate for us?
Well, I'm so glad you used the word resilience, because it's an overused word, but it is so appropriate. Here we are in a situation where we're just coming out of 2 years of pandemic. This pandemic risk was known to a lot. We knew that it was going to. But in fact, it's 5th or 6th time that we had an attempt at a virus to take over our economy, and it succeeded this time. And a lot of companies were not ready for it, despite this. Now, in front of us, we now have the nature risk, the climate risk, and the loss of biodiversity risk. And we know it's there, because science is absolutely unequivocal. So we need to gear up towards that. And how do we do that? By pricing in the risk into our activities. And that's why we need to talk about resilience. I don't think we can be forgiven if we do not anticipate the ways of dealing with this going forward.
Thank you so much, André. Thank you so much for your time.